Imagine sitting down at your dinner table, opening a can of sardines, and the moment that lid pops open, someone in your house yells from across the room, "What in the world is that smell?" And suddenly, the entire family is looking at you like you adopted a stray cat that lives in a fish market. Now here's the funny part. The same people who panic when they smell sardines will happily eat Doritos dust that glows in the dark. Welcome to the modern nutrition paradox. Today, we live in a world where the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet often have the worst reputation, while the most nutrient-empty foods get the best marketing. So in this video, I want to help you overcome something I call the Yuck Factor barrier, because many of the foods that heal your metabolism, sardines, liver, bone broth, anchovies, and other organ meats in general, are absolute metabolic powerhouses. But for many people, the challenge isn't knowledge, it's taste. So today, we're going to talk about why these foods are so powerful, why your brain may initially reject them, and most importantly, how to train your taste buds to actually enjoy them. Yes, I said enjoy them, because once your palate changes, these foods stop feeling like medicine and start tasting like fuel. And trust me, I've seen this transformation happen many times with my patients. But before we jump into strategies, let's talk about something fascinating. Your brain wasn't always this picky. For most of human history, foods like sardines and liver were considered luxury items. In fact, liver was often reserved for the strongest hunters in traditional cultures because people believed it transferred strength. Even today, some traditional societies give organ meats to pregnant women because of their nutrient density. Why? Because foods like liver are loaded with nutrients most modern diets lack. Vitamin A, B12, folate, copper, iron, choline. These nutrients support everything from brain function to fat metabolism. Sardines are another incredible example. Tiny fish, massive nutritional impact. They contain omega-3 fats that reduce inflammation, calcium from their edible bones, vitamin D, selenium, and protein that supports muscle and metabolic health. And here's a lesser known fact. Sardines are actually one of the lowest toxin fish you can eat because they're small and short-lived. They accumulate far less mercury than large fish like tuna. So metabolically speaking, they're like little ocean multivitamins. And bone broth. Bone broth contains collagen, glycine, and gelatin, compounds that support joint health, gut health, and connective tissue repair. Some researchers even believe glycine may help improve sleep quality and metabolic regulation. So nutritionally speaking, these foods are incredible. But here's the problem. Your brain didn't grow up with them. Instead, many of us grew up with hyper-engineered foods designed to hit the brain's pleasure centers. Ultra-processed foods are built around what scientists call the bliss point, perfect ratios of sugar, fat, salt, and flavor enhancers. So when the brain encounters something like sardines or liver, it sometimes responds like a big kid offered broccoli after living on candy. But here's the good news. Your taste buds are adaptable, very adaptable. Studies show that taste preferences can shift in as little as 2 to 3 weeks when you consistently expose yourself to new foods, meaning the yuck factor isn't permanent. It's just unfamiliarity. So let's talk about some doctor-approved strategies to overcome it. First strategy, don't start with the strongest version. If someone hands you straight pan-fried liver and onions on day one, that's like asking someone who's never exercised to run a marathon. Instead, start with what I call nutritional camouflage. For example, liver can be mixed into ground beef. About 10 to 20% liver blended with ground beef often becomes nearly undetectable in burgers or meatballs. Many traditional cultures actually did this naturally. They mixed organ meats into ground beef long before we understood the science. Second strategy, upgrade the flavor environment. Sardines taste very different depending on how they're prepared. Some are packed in water, some in olive oil, some in mustard or hot sauce. If someone says they hate sardines, I always ask a follow-up question. Which sardines? Because the brand and preparation make a huge difference. One simple approach I recommend is sardines with avocado and a little sea salt. The acidity from lemon cuts the fishiness dramatically. Another trick, sardines mashed into egg salad. You'd be surprised how many people love it once the flavor is balanced. Third strategy, temperature and texture matter more than people think. Bone broth is a great example. Some people don't like drinking broth straight, but turn that broth into a base for a soup or stew, and suddenly the experience is completely different. Warm foods often feel more comforting to the brain than cold ones, which is why soups exist in almost every culture on earth. Fourth strategy, start small, really small. Sometimes I tell patients, your first goal is one bite, not a full serving, just a bite. Because the brain adapts through repeated exposures. If you force yourself to eat a large portion of something you dislike, your brain forms a stronger negative memory. But small exposures create familiarity. Familiarity eventually becomes acceptance, and acceptance can become preference. Here's something fascinating many people don't realize. Taste buds regenerate about every 10 to 14 days, meaning the taste buds you have today won't even be the same ones you have 2 weeks from now. So if you consistently introduce healthier foods, your taste perception literally changes. Your body begins recognizing those foods as nourishment, and the brain starts rewarding you for eating them. Which brings me to something important. Sometimes the yuck factor isn't just taste, it's psychological. Many people grew up hearing things like, liver is disgusting, sardines are gross, organ meats are weird. But if you travel around the world, those beliefs slip. In many cultures, organ meats are considered delicacies. In fact, chefs often charge more for them. So part of this journey is simply rewriting the story in your head. Instead of saying, this is gross, try reframing it as, this is powerful nutrition. Because the body understands nourishment even when the brain is skeptical. Now let me give you a few practical recipes and hacks my patients use. Sardine mash. Sardines mixed with avocado, lemon juice, sea salt, and olive oil. Spread it over sliced cucumbers or eat it with a spoon. High protein, high omega-3, very satisfying. Liver burgers. Blend liver with ground beef, garlic, and spices. Cook as burgers. Most people can't even detect the liver, but they still get the nutrients. Bone broth coffee substitute. Warm bone broth with a pinch of salt and a little butter or ghee. This becomes a comforting, savory drink that many carnivore and keto followers love. Another great option. Freeze bone broth into cubes and add it to cooking. Now, every meal gets a nutrient boost without changing the flavor. And here's one of my favorite lesser-known tips. If you're new to sardines, start with smoked sardines. The smoky flavor often masks the fishiness and makes them far more approachable. Now let me share something inspiring. Many of the healthiest cultures in the world eat foods that outsiders initially find strange. Fermented fish, organ meats, bone broth simmered for hours. But these traditions survived for thousands of years because they worked. They nourished people. They supported fertility. They supported strength. They supported longevity. And in modern medicine, we're slowly rediscovering what those cultures already knew. Food isn't just calories. Food is information. Food tells your metabolism how to function. Food tells your immune system how to respond. Food tells your brain how to perform. So when you overcome the yuck factor and begin incorporating these nutrient-dense foods, you're not just changing your diet, you're changing your biology. And the beautiful part, you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to start. One bite, one experiment, one new recipe. Because progress in metabolic health isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in small, consistent upgrades. And before you know it, the foods that once made you say yuck become the foods that make you feel your best. Now, if you found a creative way to enjoy sardines, liver, or bone broth, drop it in the comments. Because the carnivore and keto community is full of incredible ideas. And your tip might be the one to help someone else finally cross the yuck factor barrier. And if you're interested in more strategies to improve your metabolic health, reduce visceral fat, and fuel your body the way it was designed, make sure to check out the videos in the description and the playlist on this channel. Because once you start giving your body the nutrients it truly needs, you might be surprised how quickly your health begins to transform.